1.
The podcast for heroes in the world of Overwatch. This is The Payload.
Good afternoon or evening, heroes. This is John. I push the buttons every week, and welcome to episode number 2 of The Payload. It's an Overwatch podcast from BlizzPro.com. We've got an incredible show. Hype is at an all-time high for Overwatch. We're 3 days in to the thick of it, and we've got a whole bunch to talk to you guys about. But first, let me introduce you to the crew. First, all the way over somewhere in California. I still haven't gotten around to asking him where specifically where. It is Mr. Jimmy Bloxham. Hey, Jimmy.
Hello. Glad to be back. This is so much hype for this game. This is incredible.
Oh, man. It is absolutely insane. We've got so much to talk about. We've got another guy on the show who I'm sure has a thought or two about what we've got going on with this brand new game. You may know him as Mr. Canada 1994. It is Kevin Hovdestad. Hey, Kevin.
1994. That's an oddly specific year.
It was the first one that came to my mind. Old man.
Oh, it was a whole lot earlier than 94, let me tell you. But I'm stoked, man. This is going to be a lot of fun. Beta being out is crazy. It means there's a ton to talk about. And we're a week away right now, like 24-hour days from being at BlizzCon and getting into all of the exciting events there. So I'm going to just like jitter till I explode with so much excitement. It's nuts.
Jitter until you explode, you say? Okay. All right, I like it. I must say I am equally as excited. Again, this is my first freaking BlizzCon. I'm going to be landing in California literally 1 week from now. I think 8 and some odd cents in California. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome. For those of you who have not listened to the show before, you just got to hear who we all are, but let's talk a little bit about the show, the flow of the show, and really what to expect. We really are passionate about our Blizzard games, all three of us. We talk about them on a weekly basis. Some of us write about them, some of us cast them, and then other of us just push buttons every week. But we really like our Blizzard games. So how we like to organize this show is first we want to, jump into the news a little bit, get you all caught up out on your weeks as you're going to work or hanging out at work or coming home from work or maybe at school, wherever you're at. And then we go ahead and talk about the esports and competitive scene, which we've got insane stuff to talk about this week as far as that goes. Take you in through some gameplay and design, and then finally wrap it up with something special, some sort of nice segment. So that's really what to expect to us, but we really have an incredible show, and it's a packed show, so we just need to jump in straight to the news.
This week in Overwatch.
All right. So apparently there's this thing called Overwatch, and there's this other thing called a beta, and apparently it went live, and the internet exploded, literally exploded. It has been a huge hit. We know for sure 2 official waves have gone out of beta invites. So to give you guys a little heads up, because we didn't do it last week, and I wish we would have, but we will again. First and foremost, there are no such thing as beta keys. If somebody is selling them, do not buy them because they do not exist. It's purely an account flagging system based on you opting in at battle.net, or you can go over to playoverwatch.com and click on the beta button in the top right-hand corner, and that's how you get signed up. So do that, and that's how you get into the beta. Don't buy anything. Don't give out your credit card information to anybody. Don't do any of that. That's not a good idea. So after the beta went live on Tuesday, we have had some incredible experiences. Over 200,000 people are watching Overwatch. on Tuesday. It was absolutely insane. What did you guys get out of the initial beta launch when you guys were kind of watching the streams and things like that? Go. Sorry, that was a horrible question.
No, it was
that.
cool. It was very cool to see how it went live, the initial reaction. I mean, middle of the weekday on a Tuesday, and there's 250,000 people racing to see this game on Twitch, checking their accounts. You could feel the sluggishness of Battle.net on every other site as people were like hammering account management to see if they got into the beta. It was unreal. That level of response was, I mean, I don't think unprecedented by any means for a Blizzard title, but it definitely says, yeah, we're gonna have like a very serious moment of everybody's gonna come together and really get more amped up than I think they already were somehow about the first new Blizzard IP in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has been insane. What do you think, Jimmy?
I thought the most interesting thing was we knew it was going live on Tuesday. We just didn't know the exact timing or time window. And so before it went live, there was probably like, I want to say like there was 40 to 60,000 people just watching streams tagged Overwatch that were all these streamers waiting for it to go live and just showing videos and just talking about it and how excited they were. And I thought that was really neat to see. Just the game wasn't even live and there was a whole bunch of people in channels talking about it and everything. And yeah, but I mean, people have been streaming it constantly, and it's really incredible how the game just exploded. Yeah, 200,000 people at one point on Tuesday were watching Overwatch, and that it was number one on Twitch for quite some time. It was really impressive.
Yeah, it was really insane. I think all of us, when we were thinking of like a closed beta, I think everyone kind of expected a whole bunch of invites to go out, but it is truly a closed beta. It's select streamers, randoms, all those different things going through. And yeah, so it has been really insane. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. But yeah, well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some esports stuff we've got going on. Jimmy?
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of esports news the last week relating to Overwatch, which is surprising because the data only came out on Tuesday. But Daily Dot had a bunch of articles, and Callum Leslie over at Daily Dot talked about how Fnatic's Battlefield 4 team, which I believe is the number one Battlefield 4 team currently, and they didn't confirm their movement to Overwatch, but they kind of hinted that they're looking into moving over, basically, which is a good sign for the game that doesn't even have any tournaments yet. Yeah, and then
that's unreal.
Yeah, it's absurd. I mean, and that's just one of the three stories we're kind of covering today. Daily Dot had another story about two esports organizations that I haven't heard of, but maybe other people have heard of, because they're not North America or big names, but they've officially announced moving to Overwatch. First is Kick Esports Club, Portuguese organization, sending a combination of former TF2, Day of Defeat, and Call of Duty players. And we've heard rumblings of Tempo Storm reaching out to TF2 squads and all sorts of stuff. There was another team. Let me look at the article real quick. The German organization Planet Key Dynamics is moving their Dirty Bomb team to Overwatch as well. So, I mean, that's two confirmed teams. One, it sounds like it's going to move over. And then even more, just on the individual level, Slasher was, if you don't know who Slasher is, he's probably one of the most well-known esports writers, and he has a lot of connections. So he breaks a lot of news in esports and is able to just release a lot of info before it comes out. I know he broke the story on Evil Genius's League of Legends team. So, I mean, that's how deep his ties in esports go. But anyways, he's always been a first-person shooter guy first, so I would take this news pretty seriously. He posted on Twitter about teams and players that are looking to make the jump to professional Overwatch play. And this is the list he put on Twitter. Furiotech from TF2, X Complexity from TF2, and then Cypher, Rafa, Sturmy, Dehang, Avec, and Strengths, which are you should, if you follow any FPS esports, you should recognize at least 2 or 3 of those names. But yeah, I mean, I rattled off a list of names in esports organizations. So, I mean, there's definitely interest in the game. I watched Sturmy play, and if you're looking for a like high level stream to watch Sturmy definitely, because he's a FPS pro at, I forget which game, but he's been around for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is really exciting for the game, right? I mean, we're 3 days into beta. Who knows if they've known anything kind of beforehand? I highly doubt it, but maybe there's something there. And we're already seeing so many well-known teams forming or moving great players from different esports over to this one. And I mean, that's only got to be good, right, Kev?
Totally. I mean, the article's not out yet, but I did an interview just a couple weeks back here with Dennis Fong, who people know better as Thresh. He's one of the very first pro gamers ever. He did the big like sort of Quake era pro scene. Was one of the only guys making money back when pro gaming wasn't even called esports yet. And I asked him, like, what do you see as the games that have the legs to succeed and join the ranks of the big esports titles? And the first thing he said was Overwatch, because it comes from a well-defined genre. It will allow lots of people who know the skills and the mechanics, and even like very applicable stuff like the guys who are coming over from TF2, which we didn't really touch on as much last week. They've got a skill set that's going to translate directly into how this game plays, and we're seeing that already on stream, like Jimmy just said. So there's room for a whole bunch of people who want this game to be a serious outlet to blow up instantaneously. And at this point, I think the only thing that is going to in any way hold that up whatsoever is going to be how significant Blizzard's backing of it as a pro gaming scene is.
And I think, isn't that kind of what's held a few titles back? Like, I know, Kevin, you and I especially feel this way kind of about Hearthstone, right? Is there's no real formal structure for it, and there's some limited support for it, and it kind of limits. But it sounds like, especially with names you're spouting out, like Kim Fan, who's head of esports for Blizzard, right? Is it the esports part for Blizzard? Thanks. I'm still getting used to all the names and titles. With all that she's been saying and doing, like, it's very clear that they don't intend to like keep that kind of gate that we see for like Hearthstone, where it kind of really keeps it from breaking out into something huge, where it looks like they're perfectly willing to invest that time and effort and money into making that a thing for Overwatch.
I mean, I think they're seeing the return on investment, right? Which was not something that they maybe predicted with Hearthstone, but they went in like, feet first, jumped straight into it with Heroes of the Storm when it came out, going with their opening salvo of, there's going to be a world championship, we're going to build this Heroes of the Dorm thing that's going to just be a huge marketing audience. I mean, the advertising that went into Heroes of the Storm, Heroes of the Dorm was some of the most aggressive I've ever seen from Blizzard, and I've been following them for 20 odd years at this point. I think they're very serious now about what esports can do for their games and also for their visibility as a company, and they're always trying to walk a very fine line. You've seen this with every other Blizzard game that has a scene like this. My closest corollary is the StarCraft scene, but they don't want to clamp down and run an internal league that belongs to Blizzard to the exclusion of anything else. They want their games played at Intel Extreme Masters and DreamHack, and for you to take and raise money on Indiegogo and throw up your own $5,000 prize pool and bring people together in your own tournament. Like, they want that. That's super good for them, that there's a grassroots community trying to enable people to play this game competitively. Of course, that's good for them, so there's no reason for them not to encourage that. I think for the first time with Overwatch, though, you're going to see a big push right out the gate. Like, this game has been playable for 3 days. By the time we get to BlizzCon next week, it's going to have been out there in the wider world for a very narrow audience for maybe 10 days. And I think they're going to make a firm commitment at BlizzCon to the future of Overwatch as an esport.
All right. Bold words from the bold man, Kevin Hovdestad. But of course, we all agree with him. Jimmy, what do you think, man?
I just would basically echo what Kevin said. I think with the names that are coming in, I mean, these are all older, like, pro Quake players back in the glory days of FPSs that are kind of jumping in. And I guess I'm going to sideline a little bit. I've been playing a lot of Farah, and she makes me think of how it was in Quake with the rocket launcher, and it just, she totally plays like that style, and it's really kind of a throwback to that style, and I absolutely love it. I mean, that's the uniqueness though of this game, is all the heroes have these unique styles, and I think that'll lend it to being a really well done esport. And like we were touched on last week, how the team lineups and how you can change them mid game, that's going to be just a whole nother level of strategy, and it'll be interesting to see how these former pros and current teams moving over adapt to that. And they might need to have something kind of like a MOBA, like I was talking about how Overwatch last week is a mix of a MOBA and an FPS. You're going to have a shot caller who says, okay, we need you to switch to this hero or whatnot, and I think that might be something we see in the game.
Yeah, we were definitely even seeing, just when we were kind of playing the other night, how important it was to recognize when a comp wasn't working, or when your team's comp can be exploited with a counter comp. And it made it really exciting, even though honestly I was still focusing on learning how to shoot straight and like look up at the ceiling. It's like the first time you pick up a controller that's not inverted, when you're used to inverted or something like that, and you just look straight up. That was my experience. But yeah, I mean, it's just incredible. The level of strategy is just insane. And even more so, I believe, Kev, don't we have some interesting support baked into the Overwatch beta?
Totally. They, in the existing client, have options within the settings to set up controls for using a gamepad on PC. So it's going to have effectively controller support. And with Microsoft having a significant presence at BlizzCon, as well as being one of the title sponsors, let me try that again. Titular sponsors for the Hearthstone World Championships and some of the other esports events, we know already that they're super serious about being alongside Blizzard on this. And I have to imagine that, like, the evidence is becoming more and more clear that there's going to be an announcement of an Overwatch console client at some point. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how that's going to affect payment models. I doubt it'll interface with the existing PC audience. There's a whole bunch of variables that we don't understand, but the knowledge of how significantly they are backing BlizzCon and the Blizzard esports right now suggests that they're all in on this, because they already want to have opportunity to go back after BlizzCon and say, hey, guess what's coming exclusively to Xbox One in 2016? Overwatch for consoles.
Conspiracy theory. Do you
Maybe.
think that's why there's not a Mac client?
No, not at all. Blizzard has a really strong history of supporting Mac as an operating system for their games. This is going to be a challenge, I think, because they're on a brand new custom engine that is going to take a lot of work to replicate on Mac. And like, credit where credit's due, this has happened before. There have been other betas that were, when they launched PC only, up until maybe 2 years ago, my primary computer was a Mac, and I remember it being a problem for getting into betas for some of the old, like, WoW betas and early StarCraft betas. Like, it's been an issue in the past because the Windows client is typically ready first, because that's where their core development is happening. But it's going to be on Mac. There's no reason to think that the presence of Overwatch on consoles would preclude a Mac client at some point down the road.
Do you think so? Their language is pretty strong about the not having, basically the betas, as it's being developed for PC only, and so they're not working on a Mac. I gotta find it, so I'm gonna let you keep talking here. But it's
sure,
really,
no, I would be astonished if this was the first time that they said this is a game that won't run on Mac, because the entire rest of the Blizzard PC suite runs on Mac. If anything, they're actually, from my knowledge, working on trying to expand the range of devices and operating systems that their games run on. There's been lots of talk about porting Blizzard games to a couple of particular flavors of Linux, let alone not having a Mac client. Like, unless there's some really obvious reason that escapes me personally, they would do it because it's something that sets them apart as a company. Every game they've made has been available on Macs. If you go and you try to buy Mac compatible PC games, I'm going to call them PC games, but if you go to buy a Mac game, they're the only good titles available. And I don't say that to the discredit of any other developer. It's just Blizzard has an absolute stranglehold on gaming on Mac. And I think they'd be insane not to continue down that path.
I'm totally with you. Like, I completely agree about, what you're saying. I thought that their language was very interesting. So the question is, will Mac users be able to participate in the beta? And the answer is, we're developing Overwatch for Windows-based PCs only. So a Mac-specific beta will not be provided. I think we can read into that. It was like, well, we kind of think it's probably almost surely going to consoles, but they didn't say like, and consoles. So maybe they're just keeping that, or maybe they're just saying the beta won't come out for the Mac client. But
I would expect the latter. Yeah. If anything, I would, at this point, as an educated guess, suggest that they're not going to have a Mac compatible beta client, but the game will release for Mac.
I hope so. Because when I'm out on the road and stuff and I have my laptop, it's a Mac, and I don't use it for gaming at all because that's not why I bought the computer. But I like to be able to just like throw on a game or something like that. And Overwatch would totally be something awesome to just bust out a mouse and play in the hotel room or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I do hope that it comes over to the Mac. Yeah. Well, boys,
makes a lot of sense.
I think we need to jump in and talk about some early beta impressions then. So we've been with the beta now for a couple days and gotten to do some playing, and man, it is a really fun first jump into the games. Let's go ahead. Kev, let's toss it over to you. What have you been enjoying? Wide question.
Yeah, it's a big question. My beta experience up to this point has been a solid day of play when the beta first launched. I spent probably 10 hours on Tuesday, most of it live on stream that afternoon. Just jump right in and get my feet wet, see what it looks like, get massacred horribly by people who know what they're doing, because I really didn't. But the game has a very well-designed learning curve. The abilities are very consistent in how they work. The controls are very fluid. The engine is very crisp, so there's not a lot of surprises. Things go where you expect them to, do what you expect them to. For myself, I noticed a little bit of like server latency and rubber banding, but the game runs incredibly crisp. Like, I'm so thrilled to see a Blizzard game on a modern engine. It's just unreal to me how well this game runs. When you compare it side by side to any other part of their gaming library right now, Overwatch looks like a game from the future, which is somehow appropriate. But the game plays beautifully. It's a lot of fun. And my only, I guess, constructive feedback on the beta right now is there's a lot of features we can see that don't work really well yet. Things like putting together custom in-house lobbies don't really look or feel the way I would expect from a Blizzard client yet, because it's still an early part of the beta. I think they wanted to get the back-end functionality working. They wanted the game to run, and things like, good matchmaking and the niceties of the interface and stuff will come with time. It was more important, like with every other game, let's get it out there. Let's get people playing it. Let's use that data to drive decisions on balance. Let's look at how this is affecting our servers and go from there. So that's me. Jimmy, what did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I only got a couple hours of time on it, but the time we had was really fun. I was a little frustrated at first. John and I were playing, and we were kind of just getting blasted at first.
Bad.
It was really bad.
I was so bad at this game.
I was so frustrated. I was like, gosh, I don't remember getting this dominated at BlizzCon playing this. But we played a couple more, and it kind of just started to click for me. And like I was saying earlier, I've been playing a lot of Pharah, and for some reason that hero just really clicked with me. And I didn't think I would care to play that character at all, but she's totally clicked for me, along with Soldier 76. who needs his ultimate nerfed, by the way, but that's another topic. But yeah, both those characters have really like fit my playstyle, kind of poking out and gunning and running away, and but yeah, it's been really fun, and I'm really impressed with the beta so far and how smooth the game is, and I'll leave some theorizing for about the release of the game a little later. I was about to go into that.
All right,
we'll hold on to that.
So I had a very similar experience. Obviously, the core game. So between menus and scoreboards and post-game stuff, the core game is incredible. Runs smooth. The sound design is amazing. I threw on my 7.1 gaming headphones, and holy crap, is that just an awesome experience. I don't even know if the game supports 7.1, but it sounded really good, whatever they did. So I had a lot of...
It's one of the first games in ages that I've actually turned off other music and just been like, no, I just want to listen to what's happening in this game. Holy wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was just awesome. There's some, Kevin, to your point, like just little polish pieces, like the chat box is way too small, and I think they're just using like Arial font, like just random, like this font is universal, let's put it on there kind of thing, where, those little things aren't quite there yet, but like everything else on it is absolutely incredible. You can tell they put a lot of hard work into, obviously, the game itself, as well as the post-game stuff. Like, even the engine, I want to know who, or not who, but how they decided to write the engine for, like, the player of the game and the play of the game. Because, I mean, that's pretty complex to, like, analyze all these different external factors to be able to isolate and go, that was the key play or the big play of the game. And to the other side at the end, be able to take, 4 different players and all these different things like, 49% of damage blocked versus, 38% of team kills, things like that is really incredible that they can just put that all into an end screen and kind of splash it up, make it look good. I was really, really impressed with that piece. The next thing, though, to talk about, you guys didn't do the tutorials because you guys are way better at video games than me, apparently.
I just wanted to jump in.
Yeah, that I don't blame you. I wanted to do the same thing, but I didn't want to jump in by myself. So the tutorial was really interesting. Something I think they did well. I mean, it's pretty standard amongst all shooters. Look to the left, look to the right, look up, look down. Okay, good. That's how you look. And then you kind of go into this like training room where they throw up some like training dummies where you can practice your abilities. It's done as Soldier 76. And so you're kind of learning about his different abilities and things like that. And I thought that was really kind of fluid and natural and okay, yeah, I get it, just to kind of get, the different buttons. The one part that was a little bit awkward to me is there's you capture the zone, or and stuff, just like you capture the zone in the game type. And so they just have either just literally just a red zone, and you literally just walk over and stand in it, and then they're like, good job, yeah, you did it, you're ready to go. Like, oh, that's it, you just go and you go stand in the red square, got it. But besides that, the tutorial is pretty good. I think people who are newer to first-person shooters might find some value in it, but as far as aged veterans and people who are used to virtually any shooter, you can really kind of bypass that. But they also made it optional, which was nice. Map design, though, this is something I wanted to spend a little bit of time on while we're here. Talk a little bit about the different maps and just kind of the design philosophies behind them, what you guys initially thought playing through those maps. Now, again, we've had very limited time, so we probably don't even have them even close to memorized yet, but we might have a good idea. Let's go ahead and jump to you first, Kev. Tell us about your initial thoughts around the different maps.
Yeah, for me, I think this stage of development says they're still doing a lot of experimenting. I imagine there are more maps that we haven't seen yet, and that may be something that we'll see more of at BlizzCon. But the maps that we have right now, to me, and I know I'm going to take all sorts of heat for this comment, I think the maps have really been focused on identity and visual effect. These are not maps that have been given really rigorous, thorough passes for exactly how they're going to play at a high level, or for people who are newer to the game where they're just going to get massacred and like spawn camped or choke pointed or any of that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of data left to be explored to get that kind of stuff nailed down. And even when I played like the demo at PAX back in March, like the devs were like scribbling notes frantically trying to learn what people were getting stuck on the maps, or where there were like weird angles that they weren't expecting people to be able to take shots from, because you can't get that stuff right on the first pass. You just can't. So of the maps we have right now, there are 7 that are playable right now. I would say there are some I like more than others, for sure. I haven't played much of King's Row on the beta, which seems weird. Like, I just never seem to roll onto it. But I really like Hanamura. I really enjoy Volskaya. I think I like the point capture ones better than the payload ones. But there are definitely things like there's some spawn camping that happens when you first spawn in on a couple of the maps. There's choke points that feel a little too constrained, so it's tough to break through on a purely objective-driven game type, because a lot of these maps, and a lot of the characters for that matter, don't really exploit verticality super efficiently. There are a couple, Pharah, Widowmaker, Reaper to a lesser extent, that do a good job of it, but there's a lot of characters where you feel limited by the paths that you have available to you. And given that you have to play all of these games looking to objectives, whether you're attacking or defending has huge implications for where you can travel, which characters you're going to choose, how much mobility you need. And I think that's all good. I think that's actually very good for the character design space, but I'd like to see a little more variety, I think, in the maps in the future. Like, I think there's room for, whether that's additional game types, or maps that have more of a like circular flow to them, not just this like very linear path from A to B to the 2 spawns. Like, I think there's room for them to do a lot, and I think there's an infinite amount of content out there that they can riff off of from old maps. In like, I always think back to Quake, because there was so much hard work done on Quake maps by people whose whole careers, guys who now work full-time for Valve and Blizzard themselves, they launched their careers by designing maps in those early map editors. I think there's a lot of those guys who can come back and say like, well, what if we took these ideas and brought them into Overwatch? So I'm looking forward to that.
Jimmy, what do you think, man? What are your initial feelings about the map?
Yeah, I would agree with Kevin. There's a couple maps. I don't know the exact ones off the top of my head, but I just remember like at least one of the point capture maps, like if you just don't get the defenses set up right, it's over in like 2 minutes. Like, it's really, really quick, and it feels a little unbalanced. But yeah, the visuals themselves look incredible and really communicate the style and the locale of where you are, and really give that map a very distinct flavor. And obviously that was what Blizzard was going for, and I think they did a really good job on that. And I haven't had enough time to figure out all the really like silly choke points and kind of secret jump areas you can get to kind of hide away and camp a little bit. But yeah, I think some fine tuning will need to be gone through for the gameplay stuff of all these maps. But overall, they're visually fun, and they've been fun to play. They just need a little bit of fine tuning.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely noticed, obviously aesthetically, first and foremost, A+. One of the best, if not the best looking kind of just aesthetics that we're seeing in games like this. Even down to like the level of detail. Someone posted a little GIF of he shot like the top off of what looked like, not like a fire extinguisher, but like a compressed air bottle, and it like shot around the room. One of the rooms that you spawn in, you can kind of shoot the books right off the shelves and knock them off. Things like that. Like, that detail is just incredible. For especially a game that has really no kind of story value, at least yet. And here they are just messing around with these little details that probably took someone a lot of time. And you can just tell that they really care about each and every room. And when you're seeing those types of details, you know that basically somebody's mouse went through every inch of that room to make sure that it sat great. Because adding those levels of details more than anything, well, not more than anything, but adding those levels of details ends up, it can create complexities, especially in something like a fast-paced shooter. Like getting caught on edges and things is incredibly annoying. Knowing that someone's gone through and checked all that to make sure that looks great. I mean, super A+ job. I love it. As far as like the layout stuff goes, I come from a very symmetric world with my shooters, where it's, like A side and B side, and outside of like a few variations, like everything is basically a mirror on each side. And to be able to see Blizzard kind of take something totally different, where there really isn't, maybe I haven't played them enough, but there doesn't seem to be an A side and a B side really. It's just kind of this, it's a city, or these ancient runes or things like that. There is no kind of redundancy, flip the map over on the other side and there they are. I just thought it was incredible. But I'm worried that it's a bit cluttered. That would be my only thing, where I'm just like, there's a lot going on in those maps, and I hope that doesn't end up getting in the way of being a real competitive shooter, because sometimes too much clutter can really take away from, being in that, because there's always a place to go, so positioning doesn't really matter as much.
Well, I mean, I think we can get this out of the way kind of early, and obviously they've done the correct level of pass through in QA to make sure that there's no like really awful camping positions that no one can get behind. They've done a good job, in my mind, of making sure that the level design is fairly fluid. The path that you should take is fairly obvious. Even little touches like the lines that show you where to go at the start of matches, so you know how to get from your spawn to the objective, that kind of walks you through the level, is great, because you have a clear and obvious path as to how to get situated and get started. And to your point about the detail and stuff, I think it showcases some of the work they've done on the engine. You see all of the effect of the really good physics. You see a lot of the really just key developmental stuff that it really explores for like the player. How does something interact when you shoot it? How far does something fly when you have a projectile that's affected by gravity? And it's very consistent. Like there's no... I don't think there was ever a point when I was trying different characters where I was like, wow, that's weird. Why do I feel like this character, doesn't get the same verticality when it jumps or whatever? Like they're very consistent and play like you would expect them to. So it's very intuitive in that respect. And I think the map design, for the most part, reflects that. Where you can go based on whether your character has the ability to abuse verticality or not is consistent, obvious. You're not trying to scale walls that you can't get up. Like I think people are going to look for ways to exploit that stuff and try to find those clever places, but I really don't think they're going to find them.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I really noticed that I think I didn't fully understand the depth is the complexity in the characters that they've created for Overwatch. So we have the tank class is the first one that comes to mind. There are 4 different tanks, but none of them are really even close to each other. It's really, really insane. Roadhog and Bastion, I think, are like the perfect examples of 2 guys that are tanks. They have a lot of health, but they're required for totally different uses. Obviously, Bastion, he's the big tank that throws up the giant shield with a bunch of health that your team can get behind or you can protect.
You're thinking of Reinhardt.
Yeah, Reinhardt, thank you. God dang it. I'll get it one of these days. Reinhardt, thank you so much.
Oh my God, you're such a noob.
Sorry, I know. This is why I can't do it. I'm doing this without notes because my internet is so bad. I'm trying not to mess with my upload at all and crash the whole show. So give me a little bit of slack, Twitch chat. Thanks a lot, Lance. So yeah, sorry, Reinhardt versus Roadhog. Like these 2 guys are both tanks, but philosophically polar opposites in how you utilize them to capture objectives or, protect payloads, things like that to support your teammates. And I just thought that the complexity that they went into to differentiate their characters has just been incredible. What do you think, Kev?
Right there with you on almost all counts. The things that stood out for me are, as somebody who really values the competency Blizzard has at balancing games, I was super impressed with the interplay between characters and how they kind of force you to switch and rotate through the whole roster, basically, by making sure that there are things that work to, energy attacks that pierce through those shields. So you can't just sit behind a Reinhardt or, tuck yourself in a corner as a Bastion. Characters that trade mobility for damage, characters that trade um, all of these different variables, right? How damage from guns interacts with armor versus shields. Shields replenish, armor doesn't, but armor is twice as hard to chew through or whatever. Like, there's all these little touches that show me exactly how much work has gone into balancing these characters. And if you go and you look at the old patch notes for the different versions of the Overwatch client, you can track that stuff down on like Reddit or whatever. There's a lot of little things that have changed, but they're very subtle. Like, the global design has a clear, in my mind at least, a very clear frame of reference that says this is how we're going to make it fair. This is how it's going to be equitable. They've done a really good job of that. And every character, you're right, has an identity. Like, whether it's the fact that we've gone to all these maps that feel like real places because they're supposed to be from, future Earth or whatever, to the fact that each character has a very kind of like nice referential point in time and history that they're coming from, whether it's like the accents. I love loading in as Widowmaker and having her kind of like give me that little glib touch of French, right? Or whoever it is that you really identify with. I thought she was French.
No, she's French according to her base of operations is in France.
Who was he was like the former Russian who...
That is Zarya, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Zarya is very Russian.
She's the pink-haired tank.
Like, I love that. Yeah. It's just cool how they all have such a very unique identity. And I think people are going to gravitate to one character or another in terms of what they enjoy the feel of. I kind of kept, for myself, going back to Widowmaker, Bastion, a little bit of time even as Lucio. But it, for me, was important to start and learn all the characters because at some point, to get on an objective, I had to just flip to Winston and figure Winston out. And that's great. Like, I think that's a super good way to encourage people to learn the whole game. And that's something that I think Blizzard has struggled with a little bit in the past, is it becomes very easy to say, okay, I'm going to load up Heroes of the Storm and I only play Assassins. Whereas in this game, they're like, no, you got to know everything. Like, a pro team might be able to say, you're our, primary tank. And if we need a second tank, this person will flex into that role or whatever. But on a day-to-day basis to play this game, you're going to need to know every character's kit and really appreciate the subtleties of how do you counter each character with those kits.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, let's just go ahead here. Now that we've had a little bit of time with it, is there anything for you, Jimmy, that you feel like you expected from Overwatch that in the end ended up not being true, good or bad?
I was not. Well, actually, this is the opposite. I wasn't expecting voice chat to be in the game, and I'm actually really impressed by it. The sound quality is really good.
Yeah.
As far as anything I expected from Overwatch, I kind of expected some sort of microtransactions to be in this, and this is also. Well, I mean, obviously, I think it's going to be coming in the game, but I think this alludes to it being a pay-for title, and what really kind of is pushing me towards that is that, like I was saying, there's no options to pay for anything in the beta right now, which I was surprised. So I think it's going to be a pay title, and I think it's going to be actually a lower price pay title than a full game. I think it'll be somewhere between $15 and $30. And I think this game is actually coming out extremely soon because this game is on live servers and not beta servers right now.
Wow, Kevin, what do you think about? We just got some, straight up straight up proclamations coming from Mr. Jimmy here. I feel like you might have some thoughts about those.
I mean, I think that resonates with what I was saying last week, right? I think we're getting a launch date when we get to BlizzCon next weekend. I think they have a payment model figured out already, and the fact that it's going to console screams that it's going to be a one-time purchase, and that there may be other options that are exclusive to the PC version down the road for things like cosmetic purchases or DLC or something. But I don't think that's the core model for this game, and I think that having played it now, I know that there was all sorts of talk online about, like, I don't want to be able to switch heroes constantly. There should be some kind of limit. No, like, it's a core functionality to the game, and how it plays is entirely tied to that. And once you've played it, it feels great. Like, it feels great to be like, oh, I just can't get past this guy. The only thing we can do is get behind them. I'm going to swap to Tracer or Reaper because that's how I'm going to do it. And, like, it just happens constantly. You never have any idea. Like, you're watching for who do you see show up, and you think you've got it all figured out when all of a sudden you're trying to hold a choke and Reinhardt's stomping through there with that shield, and you're like, oh god, we have no counter to that. What do we do? That's part of the experience. So I think the surprising things for me have been things like the fact that at this stage in the game, it feels extraordinarily balanced. There's a couple of, like, one-off things where, like, I, for example, don't really love how much damage Bastion does when he's set up as a turret. But for the most part, the character balance feels really good.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely some things that need to be tweaked here and there. Like a really good Pharah, too, can just absolutely wreck other teams. Like really bad. You're especially watching it in the really competitive streams and stuff. People using Pharahs who just like 30, 35, 40 kills. I mean, it's just been insane watching them go off with that. So there's definitely some balanced stuff, but at the same time, that's what your beta is for, is to get your game balanced. So,
and you know, before we even get really like into a balanced conversation, I think this game in particular is going to be, in a lot of ways, actually like Hearthstone in that respect. And we've seen this in Hearthstone all the way along. There's not going to be a ton of balance changes. There's going to be, you know what? We need a character that can, you know, push through a choke point, or we need a character that can get behind enemy lines and be disruptive. And that character is going to get added to the game. They're going to solve problems that they see by introducing solutions rather than constantly feeling like, oh, we need to, you know, do a 1 point of damage modification to how much per bullet damage Tracer does. Like, that kind of change will happen in one pass to just clean up anything that didn't work the way they expected it to in internal playtesting, I think. And then they're done. And it's all about how do we add new characters? How do we rebalance using... Because it's not a math problem so much in this game, I don't think, because of the character switching. Yes, there are characters that are going to feel overpowered. You're going to have characters that just get blown up. Any body hit on Tracer from a sniper rifle or anything comparable insta-kills her, which is intentional. She's supposed to be squishy, but she's designed to counter those fixed positions by scooting around behind them, dropping a grenade on them, and then time rewinding out like she was never there. That interplay of mechanics is how you keep the game balanced, in my mind.
Yeah, I really like that perspective. I mean, I definitely think there's going to be some hybrid approaches to that. Like, if a character is doing too much damage or isn't taking enough damage where they're able to exploit, and not exploit, but they're able to, you know, become stronger than the rest of the field. I think that there are points where you're going to see individual hero buffs or nerfs. At the same time, I think you're going to see a lot too, especially with maps. Like, we're already seeing it already. Teams have gotten really good at like exploiting Reinhardt plus Bastion, setting it up at a choke point, and then just, you know, put a couple Widowmakers in the back, and then like boom, all of a sudden, they can't get around it, and they just can't get past the choke point, and there it is. Now, obviously, we're really early in the game, so those type of strategies, it's yet to, you know if there are workarounds. I'm assuming that there are. I'm sure we'll find some workarounds for it, because it just seems silly for those types of strategies to be super viable. But if they aren't, then we'll get introduced into some either new hero types or things that can make what was formerly, you know, kind of a well-known strategy that was the strongest way to hold down a map point or whatever, allows them to exploit that and make it less viable versus, you know, Kev, to your point, you know, nerfing bullets and things like that to make it so it's just easier to plow through the other team. So
they could make mechanical changes, right? Like they might decide that in broad strokes, game wide, characters that have access to shield effects, shields regenerate too fast. So they're going to nerf the regenerate on shields. And that would be a fix to a mechanical problem that people might abuse. But that's, I think, an acceptable way to solve those kinds of problems. So I'm just really excited about how much variety there is in these characters and how much room there is left. Because you know that the 16 character pool that we have now probably only scratches the surface of what they've got ready for us.
Absolutely. All in all, I'll say I'm incredibly impressed with the beta and the game. And even right now, I'm looking at my watch, waiting for when I can get back on and just jump back into the fray, because it has been a lot of fun. We do, though, every week, we try to give you a little time to spend some times with emails or tweets that you might send us. So if you guys want to send us an email over to thepayload@blizzpro.com, or send us your tweets at Payload Podcast. We got one from our buddy Crow on Twitter who says, what do you think about new heroes versus new abilities for current heroes? Really interesting question. I think it breaks up a great conversation. Kev, why don't we have you take it first?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's room for a little bit of both. And you see this already with some of the characters. Like, I look at Lucio as a great example, where he's got the ability to flip between the speed or healing auras that he has. And I feel like lots of characters could have that kind of stuff introduced if they needed to make it so that, you know, maybe a support character needs to have some more versatility. Like, adding some swappable effects like that would make sense to me. But in general, I think they're, like I already kind of alluded to, I guess, they're going to solve problems in the game by introducing new heroes. They want to actively encourage you to explore the different characters, switch very actively. And they also, at this point, I think it's safe to say, need to keep the number of abilities per character fairly limited, because there's only so many buttons on an Xbox controller. And I think that's a serious consideration at this point, is if you need a button to jump and a button to shoot, that only leaves you with so many buttons left over for, you know, setting off an ultimate ability or using one of the default binds in the PC game. There's only 3 or 4, but that's really all you have buttons for on a console game.
Yeah, I also think there's an added level of complexity as far as the user interface is concerned to know what heroes are using what abilities. You almost have to like give it like a League of Legends or Heroes view where you can see their different talent choices and things like that. And I think that starts to get really sloppy, especially in a shooter. I don't know if that's the type of strategy and gameplay that Blizzard is looking for when they're making the game. I could be completely wrong, and they could totally do something like that, but I think that we're going to see new heroes before we see just new abilities for current heroes. What do you think, Jimmy?
I pretty much agree with what both of you are saying. I really do not see them adding abilities to any characters, just because of the, like Kevin was saying, the complexity level. We don't want that to get too crazy. And new heroes are always going to be introduced, I feel like, in this game. I mean, even if it's not going down the same pay model as something like Heroes, I feel like that's going to be their new content is going to be driven by new heroes in the game.
Yeah. And even right now, I mean, I think you see with characters already the complexity level of some characters where if you're new to the game and you don't really go looking through the F1 menu that shows you all the things that work or whatever, I definitely see like people being confused about how to do damage as Mercy, because they don't realize you have to push a button to swap to your attack weapon versus your healing wand or whatever. Like that stuff is not super obvious, and if you added any more depth to that character, it might just be too much. Like it could be very cool, but it might just add too much to be palatable in terms of you want each character to have a defined and obvious purpose. Like right now, off the top of our heads, we could probably go through and say, like, how do you counter a Reinhardt? And everybody could list a couple of ways, because each character has a kit that maybe does something to allow that, but they're very clear and obvious right now. And muddying that with a whole bunch more abilities or features just feels like it would get really sloppy in a hurry and take away from the very specific identities that each of these characters have.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, we just talked about how great of a job Blizzard did making these characters unique and basically identifiable in their own way, from their, accents and nationalities to, uh, you know, not omnibots. What are they called? We won't remember. Anyways, Omnicron, something like that. Anyways, yeah, we'll figure that out later on. Send your hate mail to Kevin Hovdestad at kevinhovdestad.net. But yeah,
goodness.
I mean, having those individual things, we've kind of run into the same thing in World of Warcraft, right? Where we kept getting these new classes and these new subclasses, and all of a sudden it's like, well, how much different are these kind of new things coming in? And they've had to do a lot of work and balancing to make sure that even the different specs, like with Hunter, don't feel super homogenized, but at the same time give them that valuable utility. And especially in something that isn't as broad as an MMO, you can really run to that really quick in the shooter or in a shooter. So, yeah. Tell you what, though, guys, I think we've hit a good amount of time here for the show. We've chatted for about 50 minutes and, got a really good head start, and we've got a lot more to go. Quick reminder to everybody, there will be no show next week. We're going to all be at BlizzCon. I'm going to try to record something just to put up on the RSS feed to remind everyone, but there will be no show. So we'll see you in 2 weeks for episode number 3 of the Payload. So make sure to hang out and do that. We did get a couple of iTunes reviews this week. Kev, you want to go ahead and take a look at those for us?
Absolutely, yeah. We're super thrilled to get these reviews as a brand new show. We're trying to build an audience still. We're trying to, make our way up the charts in iTunes, that kind of stuff. Super valuable to us to get positive reviews. So if you've listened to the show, if you've enjoyed it, and you want to help us out in turn, hit up iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. It just means the world to our ability to succeed as a brand new show. So this week we wanted to shout out big thank yous to HS Player 123 and Dragon Rider DK. Thank you guys so much for your reviews. We really appreciate that. And everybody who leaves a review, we'll shout you out on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you guys again so much. Let's go ahead and jump into shout outs for the week. Jimmy, any shout outs for you?
Just thank you everyone for coming to our Twitch channel and watching us record this. It's always cool to hang out with you guys, and I see a lot of comments talking about the show, and yeah, I really appreciate everyone coming out, checking us out, and downloading us, and giving us a shot. As this is a brand new game from Blizzard, and we're all figuring it out together.
Absolutely awesome. What about you, Kevin?
Well, I mean, big thank yous, obviously, to all the people who hung out with me on Tuesday while I was live streaming some Overwatch, bumbling through it for myself. Ended up with about 20 people that sat there pretty much all day with me. Solid 6-8 hours of gameplay, and it was really nice to have some people to, share that experience with, who could laugh at my failures as I laughed at them myself. And to everybody who is going to be at BlizzCon, there are actually literally hundreds of people that I'm going to try to meet up with while I'm down there. If you are going to be at BlizzCon and you're a listener and you'd like to learn more about the Payload or any of the other projects that me or Jimmy or John work on, we're going to be around. We're going to be at all the big parties. We're going to be at the show. Tweet us. Let us know where you're going to be. Let's hang out. It would be awesome to meet you guys and put faces to Twitter handles and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I guess biggest shout out to my sister Terry, who's been doing a lot of work to help me get all the stuff together for BlizzCon to promote our shows and our materials for all this stuff, because she's been doing a ton of work, and I owe her she's getting like a puppy at Christmas or something. Let me tell you.
Yeah, she's been awesome, even in supporting Well Met and working with her. She's great. I wish she would be at BlizzCon so I could meet her. Give her a high five. Oh, she is? I'm going to give her a high five at BlizzCon.
Yeah, her and her boyfriend are coming with me. We're all traveling together.
Oh, awesome. Well, then we'll finally get to meet the famous Terry. Awesome. So, as for me, just thanks to everyone hanging out in the chat. Kev, Jimmy, as always, thanks to you guys for being here, Jimmy for streaming this week while I get my internet situation figured out. And then hopefully from then on, it'll be smooth sailing. We're all, if you can tell on the show, we're all in like super overload, like going nonstop. We're in this game right now, trying to get as much playtime so we have awesome stuff to talk about on the podcast. We're also, trying to get ready for BlizzCon. I know Kevin's got a bunch of projects and articles and things that he's working on. Jimmy, you're leaving like tonight?
I'm leaving tonight.
Jimmy's leaving tonight.
Thanks for sticking around, Jimmy.
I know.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So you guys are awesome. You guys really make the show what it is. So thank you guys so much for doing that. And also a big thank you to Jake Butno over at jakebutno.ca. We have the best intro and outro music in podcasting, and it's all because of this guy. You need to go check him out. Check out his SoundCloud, his YouTubes, his Twitter. He's all over. Give him a follow. Give him a shout out, pat on the back, because he's done some awesome work. Big thank you again to Katie for making it so I have bumpers to play each week while we work on getting our voice talent in the studio. And Dread Scythe of scythedesigns.com for doing all of our awesome layout stuff, which I butchered this week because I have no upload speed. So I'm sorry, sir. And then thank you guys so much for leaving iTunes reviews. We really appreciate it. And if you like the show, you should leave one too. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and the new Google Play podcast thing. We're on that already. So you can find us there too if you're listening to your podcast through Google Play Music. It works almost exactly like iTunes. I'll figure out if there's a way to leave reviews, and if there are, I'll make sure that I'm checking them every week. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us on episode number 2 of The Payload, and we will see you in 2 weeks. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.
The Payload is a production of BlizzPro. Find out more about Overwatch at overwatch.blizzpro.com. You can find your host throughout the week on social media. Find Jimmy on Twitter at DJ Tyrant, Kevin on Twitter at Lack of Realism, and John on Twitter at Kicked Tripod.